Welcome to the 9th chapter of the book of Zechariah. We continue, and it begins the concern of the word of the Lord against the land of Hadrach, is in the, I believe in the King James, and Cedroc is in the Greek. I could have changed it, but if I did that, I'd have to change it all over and be very confusing with all these different names, spellings in the English and the King James and the Apostolic Bible and so forth. So it's Hadrach. And his sacrifice of Damascus, the concern of the word of the Lord against the land of Hadrach, and of Damascus, his sacrifice it could be. This is Syria today. It was Syria back in those days. The Lord inspects men and all the tribes of Israel, parenthetic phrase there. And Hamath among her limits. Hamath was north of Damascus, and Tyre and Sidon. We can go to a map here, and we'll see right here that this is Phoenicia. There's Sidon, and there's Tyre. And then Damascus is over here, and Jerusalem is down here. And the other cities of the mentions will be in Ashkelon and Ashdod and Ekron, which is south of what's called Tel Aviv today. And then it mentioned Tyre and Sidon. There is a interesting article on Tyre here on Wikipedia. If I find it here, Tyre. And in Lebanon, and there's Lebanon. Israel is right down further south here, not too far. The border is right on with Lebanon. Used to be called Phoenicia. This city of Tyre, if you go through here, you'll find out it was one of the major cities on the Mediterranean. It stuck out into the sea. You can't see it from here, but it actually was a promontory. It stuck out, and there was a causeway. It was an island, and it was a causeway, and there was a harbor. Well, I guess there it just jumped to that picture there. Anyway, it had a dual harbor on both sides, so it was very well protected. And many people over the period of time that were in Tyre built up this powerful entity called Phoenicia. They went and developed outposts. One of the major one was Carthage at this time, and Carthage was the major adversary to Rome. So it was an important city that came from the Phoenicians of Tyre, who were boat people, and Sidon. So the city of Tyre is mentioned in 15 books in the Old Testament, so I'm not going into a big history of Tyre and how it's used, but it is used. And in the New Testament, it mentions in Matthew 15:21, and having gone forth from there, Jesus withdrew into the parts of Tyre and Sidon. So actually, one of the few places that Jesus left Israel was for this area of Tyre and Sidon. And Tyre, at the time that Zechariah was writing, was a powerful country. It earlier had been attacked by Nebuchadnezzar and gave up to him and sent money to as a tribute to Nebuchadnezzar. And then, so God here is saying the concern among Tyre and Sidon, for they thought exceedingly, they thought they're important, that is more or less. And Tyre built a fortress to herself, as is on that island, and treasured up silver and dust, and gathered gold as the mud of streets. So it was a wealthy, wealthy city, powerful. And on account of this, the Lord will inherit her. The Lord's going to take over, and he shall strike her power in the sea, and she shall be consumed by fire. Well, Alexander came and built a causeway that went out to the island and overtook Tyre. But here, and now there's a causeway no longer there, but the city of Tyre is still there. And it says that she's going to be consumed by fire. I think before the time of Jesus, she was somewhat destroyed by fire by the Antiochus, who was one of the successors of Alexander the Great. And then he goes to Ashkelon. Ashkelon shall see and shall fear. Let's go back to our map, and we will go to, there it is. Ashkelon is down here in the Gaza Strip, which is today controlled by the Philistines, called the Palestinians today, and basically all Muslim. And now we'll go back again, and we'll see this in this Ashdod, and Ashkelon shall see and shall fear, and Gaza, the Gaza Strip, where all these problems are today with Israel, and within Israel, even she shall grieve exceedingly, and Ekron, for she shall be ashamed over her transgression. Ekron was further north, right north of the Gaza Strip. And the king shall perish from out of Gaza, and Ashkelon in no way should be inhabited. Well, they are inhabited today, and they have been. So this prophecy of Zechariah to me sounds like here that it's way still in the future. Now, what Israel and how Israel takes care of Gaza and Ashkelon, I don't know. This is 2017, August. Yes, we'll find out. Or you'll know if you're watching this later. And foreigners shall dwell in Ashdod, and that was down there in Gaza, and I will demolish the insolence of the Philistines, the Allophion, the Palestinians is basically who they are. The Allo, and here it doesn't use the word of Philistine. It uses Allophion. Allo means other, and phylon, a phylum, a tribe, the other tribes. And I will lift away their blood from out of their mouth, and their abominations from between their teeth. So God is going to take care of these people. He is going to not allow them to be mercenaries any longer against Israel at the future. They haven't been, there still are an adversary to God today, to Israel. And they shall leave behind also these to our God, and they will be as under a commander of 1,000 in Judah. And Ekron will be as a Jebusite. So, basically, that is what it is today, that Judah, Israel does somewhat rule Gaza, although it gives them a lot of leeway. But in the future, whenever this is going to be, they'll be under a commander of 1,000, of a Israeli general or so, or a governor. And Ekron, which is, like I mentioned, north of the Gaza Strip, will be as the Jebusite. And the Jebusites were the people that ruled Jerusalem. When King David attacked, it was a Jebusite city, and they were destroyed, and same thing with Ekron will be destroyed. And it pretty much, I think it's all run by Israel today anyway. And I will stand in my house on a height. That's in Jerusalem, so as to not travel through nor return. So his house is going to be on the height in Zion, and then people, you don't go through the holy temple to get from one side of the city to the other. You have to come in one way and you go back the same way. You can't go through it, travel through it. This is what he's referring to here. And in no way should there come upon them any longer, but Israel, Jerusalem, one's launching an expedition. For now I have seen with my eyes. So the idea that Israel is going to be attacked, but eventually that will stop. I believe that's the 1,000-year reign, because before that I believe it will be attacked and somewhat destroyed. The temple will be destroyed, the beast. And verse 9, it changes a little bit, and it mentions and says, "Rejoice exceedingly, O daughter of Zion." And the exclamation makes it imperative to do this. "Rejoice exceedingly, O daughter of Zion. Proclaim, O daughter of Jerusalem, behold, your king comes to you just and delivering. He is gentle and mounted upon a beast of burden, even a young foal. Zion is generally relates to the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. So here is this famous prophecy of Zechariah of your king coming to you. And this is Jesus. He's gentle, mounted upon a beast of burden, even the young foal, which is a quotation. So you can see the double dagger here in the Apostolic Bible. You go down to the bottom of the page, and you'll find it, and it'll say, see Matthew 21:5 and John 12:15. Now, if you were in Matthew 21:5 and John 12:15, it would say, see Zechariah 9:9, which is a great feature that the Apostolic Bible has. And he shall utterly destroy chariots from out of Ephraim, and the horse from out of Jerusalem. And I think what he's saying here is they're not going to need an army eventually, but that's not the case today. So again, 1,000-year reign. The bow of warfare shall be utterly destroyed. In abundance and peace from out of nations, he shall rule waters until the sea, and that's Jesus, and from rivers of the passes of the earth. And you, by the blood of your covenant, sent out your prisoners from out of the pit, not having water. The blood of your covenant of Jesus, sending out the prisoners from out of the pit and not having water, and the pit was sin. And the people have been freed from sin, and this is what was predicted by Zechariah, that this ruler would come, a king, and he would release them. And it wasn't a physical pit, and here a lake rather, not a pit, a lake. It says pit, but a pit or a lake. Anyway, and you shall settle prisoners of the congregation in fortresses, and for 1 day of your sojourning I will recompense to you double. Now, the you, is that Jesus, or is that the, to you is plural, so is to the people. For I think, is that, yeah, it's plural. To you, yeah, I think that's plural. For I stretched you tight to myself, O Judah, as a bow. Toxon, toxology is a study of poisons, and they put poisons on the tips of the arrows, and those bows, they call it toxon. I filled Ephraim, and I will awaken your children, O Zion, against the children of the Greeks. And it reminds me there of, we got children of Zion, the Jews, and the children of the Greeks. The Gentiles are the nations, as it's called in the Apostolic Bible, the word ethnos. But here we actually have Elenon, the Greeks. And we have something, so Zion is going to, again, take charge, and Paul tells us about that in Romans 11:25 and 26, where he says, For I do not want you to be ignorant, brothers, of this mystery, that you should not be intelligent in yourselves. For callousness has happened in part to Israel, until of which the fullness of the nations should enter in. And so all Israel shall be delivered. A lot of people don't like the Jews. They don't like Israel. They try to make the church Israel of today and develop this Jewish Christian type of a relationship. And there's a lot of white supremacists. I get written by some of them. They can't imagine Israel, the Jews, as being anything except something in the past that killed Jesus. But yet, even Paul says here, it's happened in part. And so don't be intelligent in yourself, it's saying. Don't think that you have the answers of what's going to happen to Israel. Things are going to happen to Israel. I see the bad things, and I see the good things in the future. So this is what it's talking about here. And I will handle you as the broadsword of a warrior. So God is going to use Israel in a military way. And that would probably be before the 1,000-year reign, or possibly today, I'm not sure. And the Lord shall be seen over them, and his arrow shall go forth as lightning. And the Lord God by a trumpet shall trumpet, and his intimidation goes for tossing about. Now, with trumpet, there's many trumpets mentioned in the Bible. His trumpet shall trumpet. Matthew 24, Jesus says that he'll be returning in the cloud, and he'll send his angels, and there'll be a trump. And that could be the one it's talking about here. It could be a war trumpet of the army using the trumpet and being used by God as in a military way, which they have been here since Israel has become a nation in 1948. They've had 3 wars: the War of Independence, the Yom Kippur, and there's another one. I can't think of what it was. But anyway, the Lord Almighty shall shield them, and they shall consume them, the Israel Jews, and shall heap upon them with stones of a sling. Now, there's rockets. Stones of a sling today. The Palestinians throw stones at the Jews, but the stones of a sling, and it seems like there's a David's sling, I think it's called a rocket, that Israel has developed. And they shall drink up their blood as wine, and shall fill the bowls as an altar basin, that is of the enemy, Israel's enemy. And the Lord their God shall deliver them in that day as the sheep of his people. For holy stones shall roll upon his land. Now, what is holy stones? What that is, rolling upon his land. Somebody could say, well, it could be tanks. I don't know. Could be believers in Christ. I don't know. For if anything be good of his, and if any be fair of his, the grain will be for the young men, and the wine being fragrant for the virgins. Now, I'm not exactly sure wine being fragrant for the virgins, why virgins would want wine, or the young men be fair. The grain will be for the young men, and wine. Maybe it should be there, no comma, being fragrant for the virgins. I'm not exactly sure, but it's what it says. So these things are the children, they and them of 15 here. I forgot to go through that. So the Lord shall shield them, that is the children of Zion, as we mentioned earlier, and they shall, the children of Israel shall consume them, being the children of the Greeks, and shall heap upon them stones of a sling, and so forth. And Israel will be a power in the world when it becomes, takes over, I believe, the war and defeats the enemy in the 38th, 39th chapter of the book of Ezekiel. But then I believe after that, then in between that, the 39th chapter and the 40th, is the period of Revelation. And the whole thing of Revelation and the time of the beast will then occur. And after the beast, then will be the 1,000-year reign on earth. The Messiah, or the Prince, will be there. And then after that, Satan will be released. And after Satan is released, there will be a war, Gog and Magog again. And then they will be defeated. And then the New Jerusalem, this cube coming down from heaven, will appear. People will go there that are meant to be with Jesus, who there will be no throne because Jesus is there, no sun. Jesus is the light. And that's pretty well sums up what's going to happen in this period of time, the way I see it. And then chapter 10, it continues. Zechariah continues, and the ransom of the people of the Lord, and we will find out what this is all about in the 10th chapter, and I hope you'll join us in 10th chapter, and God bless.